Hello, everybody. It's Philip Lee returning with another episode of Civil War Chat. If you'd like to subscribe, then please click on the subscriber button in the lower right and also the notification bell in the upper right. Today, we're going to talk about the stolen authority at Washington and Lee University. Last week, on the 18th of June, Washington and Lee Assistant Professor of History, Dr. Nneka D, published an article in the Chronicle of Higher Education warning that W&L's recent decision to keep Lee as a namesake leaves her doubtful that the Board of Trustees, quote, will appropriately evaluate scholarship on race and racism or scholarship by faculty of color, close quote. Perhaps she should instead be more concerned that they may not be evaluated, that the teachers may be evaluated on the quality of their research. Her quote, assault on Black academics article, for example, states that 2.5 years ago, the Ku Klux Klan left pamphlets on the W&L campus earning KK, keep the name the same, exclamation point. Even though her source is an October 26, 2018 article in the Ring-tum Phi student newspaper that states that the pamphlets were only, quote, possibly distributed, close quote, by the KKK. She just merely takes that possibly distributed and assumes it to be a fact that the KKK did distribute because it fits her agenda. The distribution may alternately have been managed by a group of name change advocates who wanted to smear Lee's reputation by associating it with the KKK. Certainly the latter would have more impact on the situation, but there's no proof of either premise. Okay. Dr. Dennie also accused Lee of whipping, quote, fugitives from slavery, close quote, and cites as her source a June 12, 2020 Associated Press article by a so-called fact checker. The article cites an alleged incident summarized by one Wesley Norris, a former Arlington House slave of Lee's father-in-law, George Custis. The AP incorrectly states that Norris's summary was from court testimony, whereas it was truly from an article in the National Anti-Slavery Standard on April 14, 1866, which was a year after the Civil War, and slavery was gone. Concerning Norris's article, Lee wrote a friend, quote, the statement is not true, but I had not thought it proper to publish a contradiction. And later he added to the same correspondent, there's not a word of truth in it. Now, the Norris incident presumably occurred in 1859, before the war, but he wrote about it after the war. Additionally, Amanda Parks, who was the sister of one of the alleged victims along with Norris, of the whipping, the alleged victims of the whipping along with Norris, his sister, Amanda Parks, remained on good terms with Lee. After the war, she tried to visit the general at his hotel when he was temporarily in Washington in February 1866, but he was out of the building. When he returned to Lexington, he wrote her on March 9, 1866, stating his regrets, adding that he often thought of the Arlington's former slaves and hoped that they were all prospering. In short, Norris's accusations have long been known and they have never been proven. There's nothing in the recent evidence. The recent discussion doesn't change anything. These allegations have never been proven. And the fact that Amanda Parks, the sister of one of the alleged victims, was on such friendly terms with Lee makes it very doubtful that Norris's story is true. At least that's the way I read it. Finally, Dr. Dennie states that Lee ignored, quote, the sexual violence that white male students committed against young Black girls, close quote. She cites as her source a June 14, 2017 article by Adam Serwer in Atlantic Magazine. Now, Serwer's source is Elizabeth Pryor's Reading the Man book, published in 2007. Pryor, however, didn't originate this. She cites a source as an article written by one John M. McClure, which is included in a book, Virginia's Civil War, published in 2005. Now take it, here we have a Washington Lee PhD history professor citing Atlantic Magazine. She doesn't look at the source, which would be Pryor's book. She doesn't even go to Pryor's book and find out that Pryor is citing a paper written by another guy in another book. She didn't do that. She just relies on the contemporary Atlantic magazine article. Contemporary meaning 3 years old. Now, although McClure does seem to come to the conclusion that such incidents likely happened in his opinion, he provides no proof, none at all. None of the students were ever convicted of rape, whereas they could have been prosecuted in a military tribunal. Keep this in mind. No doubt some people will complain that, well, they wouldn't be prosecuted in Virginia because the white Virginians would never convict them. That's not the case here. Virginia was under military rule. The U.S. military could have intervened to try any men accused of rape of black women if they wanted to. As a matter of fact, the military did intervene in a number of civilian courts in Virginia during this period. So Virginia remained under military rule until 1870, which was the same year that Robert E. Lee died. Additionally, McClure admits that a Freedmen's Bureau teacher stated that that a suspended black girl who was willingly cohabitated with a white man, and that such an arrangement was, quote, sadly commonplace, close quote. Now, the black girl was suspended from school because she got pregnant. She objected to being suspended, and it was learned that she was cohabitating willingly with a white man. And here are the teachers saying, well, unfortunately, these arrangements are sadly commonplace. The evidence points to me that these alleged rapes did not happen, or at least rapes as they were understood legally in the 19th century did not happen. This was cohabitation that happened in the 19th century. That was not rape. It is surprising that the Chronicle of Higher Education accepted a draft from a professor, a PhD, who documented historical events with citations from recent articles in such ordinary pedestrian publications as the Associated Press, Atlantic Magazine, and a W&L student newspaper. And even in the case of W&L student newspaper, it didn't provide the evidence that she said. She just took a possibility and transformed it into a, quote, fact. And she did a lot of that. She did that also with the accusation that Lee beat slaves, because the Associated Press got that wrong. There was no court testimony. Not by Norris. Norris was just an article in a newspaper that was committed to, that was an abolitionist newspaper before the war. Deeper scholarship should be required from a professor with a PhD from any college, but especially from one that wants to retain its hard-earned excellence and reputation for academic excellence. But Washington Lee earned that reputation over 150 years, and professors at any venerable institution who are praised for works based on sloppy research are relying upon, quote, stolen authority, close quote, to build their reputations. So that's what I wanted to say about this latest development at Washington and Lee. But also want you to take a look at my book, Confederacy at Flood Tide, which covers the events of the Civil War from June 1862 to December 1862, when the Confederacy had its best chance of winning independence. If you want to get a copy, it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, $28 there. If you want to get a signed copy, you can get it from me, and I'll cover the postage if you're here in the United States. The price is $31. Email me, Phil, Phil _ Lee, Leigh, at me.com. Okay, that's our show for today, and thanks for watching.